Oh, good afternoon. Welcome to an absolutely sun-baked Goldington Road. And look who I have found, one of the Blues' newest recruits, George Worth. Hello, George.
How you doing?
Yeah,
really
very
well.
good. Nice to wander a little bit with you around this wonderful ground, which is looking pretty special at the moment. I'm just going to paint the picture of the people watching. End of block one. So
Yep.
you've been in,
Yep.
you've got to know a few people,
Yep.
but it's still early doors. How are you adjusting to the the Costa del Bedford?
Well, days like today make it pretty easy to be back. First block's been really good. For me, it's been about putting my head down, working hard, not ruffling any feathers. Getting up to grips with the language and the players and the coaches, and like I said, just getting stuck in and working hard. And I think others may say otherwise, but I think I've done what I planned.
Yeah. It's we'll talk about sort of where you've come from and the journey that you've had, because I think it's quite interesting. Also sounds to me, as someone who knows a little bit about rugby, it sounds a little bit tricky, a little bit tough in places, that you've had a rough end of the stick in places, which you obviously would have had to have adjusted with, but you've landed here. Can I just talk about how Bedford Blues came on your radar, and how quick were you to say yes, please?
How did Bedford come on the radar? So I knew that there wasn't anything for me anymore in France, and it was a case of, was there anything in the Premiership? Unlikely for a player like me, because as the squads are now, you're either an international or an academy player. So I knew that I had to look, below the Premiership, and had been following Bedford for forever, and saw how well the club were going last year. So it was basically a case of getting in touch with Mike, letting him know that I was coming back to the UK, and if he was interested, and it went from that email to signing in about 10 days. So
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's quick work, and
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. It doesn't take someone too long to go on the internet and start to hear some of the lovely things said about you in various different ways. Can we take us back to where it all started? You're a Wyndham boy.
Yep.
Came through the Leicester Tigers Academy.
Yep.
What an academy! What an opportunity in which to flourish. Surely.
It was. So when I was in the academy, many years ago now, it was go at 16, go full time, and feel like you're a professional rugby player, which you're miles from being a professional rugby player. But the few players who came out the other side, it stood them in very good stead for a lot of good traits that without there's no way I'd have played the games that I have. So I sacrificed a lot at the time, but have got a lot of good stuff off the back of it. So I'm very pleased that I went at the time I did.
Who did you want to be as a young man? Which players, as a young player, who were you thinking, I'd like to play a little bit like him? Were there people around you that you could reach out and touch? Obviously, in that Leicester Tigers squad, there would have been some really ace, wonderful players.
Yeah.
But there were other players in the sort of ether that you wanted to say, I want to be a little bit like him.
Yeah, I mean, the earliest memories were obviously Johnny Wilkinson, but from a Leicester point of view, Geordie Murphy, and Billy Twelvetrees actually.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching Billy Twelvetrees on his debut at Tigers, and he ran a riot. I think it was against Gloucester, and it was 32 all, and it was my earliest memory really.
Yeah.
And then Geordie as well. So the two of them really were the sort of backs I looked up to at Tigers.
Yeah.
And obviously being a big Tigers fan, watched a lot of both of them.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Talk about that period with the Tigers, because it was perhaps in recent history, it was a team that in the early part of the century were all conquering. Saracens then sort of took on that mantle. Leicester was still punching exceptionally well, but by the time we get to 2019, 2020, it was starting to get tough for the Tigers, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was turbulent for sure. There was lots of movement at the club, all over the place, squad, coaches, even higher than the coaches. So there was plenty going on. So there was some very difficult times, and it's a funny one because it gave me opportunities to play. It gave me exposure, but it also meant that you're in difficult teams that were struggling. So it was a difficult one, but it would have been great to have managed to stay along and experience some of the successes that they've had since then. But that's just right time, right place, things like that. It is what it is, and here we are today.
You moved on from Leicester Tigers and actually took an incredibly brave step to go out to Australia.
Yeah.
I mean, can you remember how that came about, and indeed how you got your mind around it? Because you were still a young man, and to go the other side of the world and try and compete in Super Rugby, that's a hell of a step.
Yeah, it wasn't particularly brave at all, because it was an amazing place to go and live. And like I said, there was lots of change at Tigers. New coaches came in and made it pretty clear that I wasn't part of the plans pretty early. So, it was a case of reaching out to. I was lucky enough to have an Australian passport, so my dad was born in Australia.
Ah, that helps.
Yeah, so I got in touch with a coach called Jeff Parling, who's is now coming back to Leicester.
Indeed,
He was line-outs forwards coach at Rebels at the time. Let him know that Tigers were looking to move me on, and if they're interested in taking me on loan for a season, and they said they were. Dane Haylett-Petty was struggling with his head at the time, and they were looking for a fullback, so it worked really well. So when there was a choice between a championship club or having to go in Melbourne, it was a pretty easy decision.
Yeah, and some names, not only alongside, but turning up against. It must have been occasionally a little pinch me moment.
Yeah, it was crazy. So actually, Matt Tamua was at Tigers when I, before Melbourne. So he helped with conversations as well. So yeah, absolutely pinch me moment. Playing in Super Rugby was crazy. And yeah, I mean, looking back, it's crazy to think about, but yeah, wicked experiences.
What do you? And this is a really interesting. You're still young in many people's eyes in rugby terms. Perhaps you're a little bit more senior, but you're still young. And I look back at my own life and think maybe I didn't have the propensity to kind of learn in the moment. But those two environments you've spoken about, Leicester Tigers in the environment that you spoke about there, and then going out to Melbourne and trying to ingratiate yourself into a Super Rugby side, which you obviously did. Looking back now, what key thing do you think you take away from both those environments? What did it give you?
That's a good question. Leicester, all the hard-nosed disciplines and work hard, and you get out what you put in, definitely. And then Australia is so different. You're allowed to be slightly more laissez-faire and express yourself a bit more. I think the culture of the country, the people in the country, the way the coaches coach is very, very different. I might not be answering your question, but different ways of doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, probably that you can have a bit more of a go in Australia, which may or may not benefit me as a player, but still different ways of doing things is
absolutely.
Cool.
I mean, I think that's probably a massively sort of undervalued skill in a sense of being able to come in and work out how to get the best out of you, because you can't, as a rugby player, and many people won't realise this, you can't just go and necessarily just do what you do in any team, because that might not work, might it? So you've got to adapt, haven't you?
Yeah, for sure. And it was very important to be able to do that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had any game time at all in Australia, because it's a different way of doing things. But different experiences, but loved them both equally as much.
And you came back, and it wasn't too long before France came calling.
Yeah.
Again, another new environment for you to go into. Talk us through that and how that felt.
Yeah, amazing 2 years. I was pretty fortunate to get the opportunity. So the team Valence had just come up from National 1. So they were looking for players who had slightly higher experience, and I sort of fell into that category. And there was plenty of new players coming in. going into a new league, and yeah, I can't really speak highly enough of the place because they were new into the league. They didn't have huge budgets, didn't have a huge network of fans. They were quite a new club, but yeah, they looked after the players very well. They had fantastic admin. They had a decent group.
Yep.
They put us through French lessons, and did stuff that wasn't necessarily obligatoire, as they say. But they looked after the boys and did great post-match functions. They it was a fantastic 2 years. So another experience that I'll look back on fondly.
And again, the way that French rugby will have given you potentially another way, because all these cultures you're going into, they play rugby slightly differently. The emphasis is on a slightly different part of the game sometimes. Famously, the English marvel at the French scrum halves and the way that they run the game, rather than perhaps in the UK game it's more on the 10 and more on that. What did that give you, and give you a different viewpoint?
Yeah, exactly that. I think there's more similarities between the French game and the English game than there are the French and the Australian.
Sure.
So there was plenty of wet weather rugby. There was plenty of kick it long and in, which was cool. I was amazed with the temperature changes. We played our first game in the end of August at 37 degrees at 7:45. And then you're playing games in the middle of December, and it's minus 2 at kickoff.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of adapting to the weather there as well. So but like you said, it's the nines who are the general, and I think the French also like having a English fullback that potentially kicker and high balls and those sort of things, with a big Fijian centre tends to be the way they do it.
Okay.
But amazing experiences, and having to communicate in other ways when the language isn't coming off like that has taught me lots of things as well. So
where did you end up playing most of your rugby positionally out in France? Did you find, because we haven't spoken about that, but you're a man who potentially could fill a number of different gaps.
Yeah,
where did you
I played mostly fullback.
Mostly.
That was what the position they recruited me as. So I played mostly fullback. But like you said, growing up played a good bit of centre as well. So keen to play either.
Well, that brings us to here. That brings us to Bedford Blues and where you are. I mean, you say yourself you've been across the information coming out of the Blues. You would have probably seen a few games. One thing that you cannot fail to mention with the Blues is that the backs get the ball.
Yeah.
They do.
Yes.
They do. Like, if you're a backline player, the Blues is a place that you like to have a look at.
Yeah.
Where do you fit into it all, or where do you think you fit into it all? I appreciate Mike Ray might have a decision on that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there's no doubt the boys out wide have been awesome. Obviously, Dean with his testimonial.
Yep.
Louis was player of the team of the year last year. So there's the team is stacked with X factor and finishers out wide, and I probably don't fall into that category.
Okay.
So for me, it'd be about getting the ball to those guys, making sure people are in the right place to allow those boys to have space. So, it's got me a career so far. So hopefully I can continue to do that.
And does it excite you? Because I guess that any backline player would be excited to come and play for the Blues, because you're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to get the ball.
Yeah, for sure. As we've touched on, there's been different styles, and I've never probably played in a style like this.
Okay.
Definitely excited.
Okay. End of block one, I managed to sneak in. I was watching a bit of tackling happening.
Yeah.
And at one point, you picked up a tackle bag as Fred Tuolangi decided to run towards you. You know Fred from a long time off, and there didn't seem to be any expense spared from Fred as he hit you. If you don't mind me saying to the camera, it took you about 20 seconds to get back off the floor.
It's not true. I jumped straight up, didn't feel it.
Right. Okay, we'll beg to differ on that. But A, how nice is it to see faces again, like Fred's, back in there? And B, just how does it feel being hit by him?
It hurts. You're right. It wasn't up straight away, but we'll call it 10 seconds.
Yeah, okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, great to see him. Jamie as well. Came through Tigers Academy with both those boys. So, it's cool. Laughing about stories and things that we went through back in the day. So it's helped with getting involved because both of them are pretty, stable within the squad. So they've helped me, Jamie, with getting around Bedford and getting me on the golf course and the bars and restaurants and Fred less so with that, but more so with the rugby side.
Well, you need bits of you need everything.
Exactly.
You need everything. Not long until the first hit out. Where do you think the Blues are? And it's always difficult pre-season. I mean, you will have had enough pre-seasons to recognise you cannot possibly suggest that something is going to happen in a season because of pre-season.
Yeah.
But I suppose the question for you is, how would you like pre-season to go? What would you like to see from the Blues' point of view?
Yeah, first block we've done. Obviously lots of fitness games, lots of touches, and then the last week or so we've started to look at the shape and structures and actual rugby, which has been cool. I think in the next block we're moving into games and a bit more contact and a session against Northampton and things like that, which he'll soon find out where the weaknesses are. So we'll definitely be able to know more after the next block, but everything that you need from the first block has been ticked off. Boys are hopefully fitter. Skills are on the way up. Also, spending time with each other is important. Embedding new players like myself is part of it as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And I hope you've been into town and enjoyed the coffee shops on offer.
Say donuts.
Yeah,
Say donuts.
the donuts you found them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, not
close.
too many,
No,
otherwise you'll be sorted. Anyway, it's a delight to speak to you, George. I hope that we get to talk throughout the season.
Yeah.
Off the back of a couple of stonking wins, no doubt. And welcome to Bedford Blues. Thank you very much.
No, it's been great. Thanks for
Cheers,
having me.
George.